Hello, beautiful, amazing, fantastic world, and you, wonderful, wonderful individual personality you. Today, I would like to speak about sensitivity is a gift. We should not squander it by hardening ourselves and becoming cold and careless and indifferent, for that means actually, well, kind of a second death, if one would like to call it that. One becomes inactive, one has no purpose, one goes around without meaning, and in general, our soul longs for something deeper and something more active, soul and spirit. And in general, being sensitive, your sensitivity is a sense organ for emotions. Our emotions, of course, is playing out in our body and our etheric bodies, but it is coming down from the astral, in a sense, affecting the etheric body. That means, no, yeah, etheric thinking, but they are intertwined within each other, the glandular, nervous system, and blood, and the physical. So it is kind of difficult, but hear me out here. Your emotions are a sense organ. You feel others' emotions. You feel everything around you and have certain sensations in relation to them. And of course, we do have certain traits we have more or less picked up through our childhood and such that we do actively work upon to, well, strengthen our own inner being and overcoming and healing many of the pains and sufferings from the past. When you are sensitive, to master it, and despite being sensitive, we still do not cut ourselves off from the world astral, from the world ether in a sense. We are still embedded and active in it. And that requires us to have inner strength and stability. And when I mean inner strength and stability, I mean being able to handle any discomfort that might come into our own inner being. For us, that alone is a job in a sense, to be able to balance out and to also develop and put in the impulses needed into our being, as to be able to grow, requires also a little manure, a little fertilizer. And remember, the plants are a little opposite of us. What the plants take in to grow is poisonous and toxic to us. Carbon dioxide and the carbonic acids and such, which is extracted from manure, which is the nourishment from the manure is toxic to us but nourishing to the plants, just as an example. But sometimes the manure we need can be a little uncomfortable and painful. Overcoming that by knowing that, well, a resurrection is imminent, that we do not stay idle for too long, for we do go inward. When you go inward and sit with yourself, like you are your own parent in a sense, you are your own, and when I say you, I mean you and the hierarchy, you and not yet I, but the Christ in me. Inward, he comes from inwards going out. The more we awaken to our own inner being in relation to the world, in relation to compassion, in relation to others, the more we are able to connect to the Christ impulse. For the Christ impulse lets me and you understand each other as individuals, no matter where we come from, no matter background, no matter color of epidermis and so on. It doesn't matter in the end. What matters is our inner being, our own behaviors, our own attitudes to life, our sense of values, our morality, our understanding, our cognition, comprehension of the world. Sensitivity is part of this. For sensitivity, tempered and balanced and disciplined with both intellect and also will, in a sense, allows us to hold a certain balance between a threefold human being. For without this balance, we become too imbalanced, obviously, when we say it like that. For we are the best picture of it is we are the fulcrum of the scale, and there is only one fulcrum, and that is the Christ. He came once in the physical world. That is the fulcrum. Everything from the past flows into that fulcrum, and everything moving into the future moves from that fulcrum. Do you see? And it is because everything changed when he, well, sacrificed himself on Golgotha. For when he merged his substance, his whole being with this earth, we had the capacity or the opportunity through cleaning and clearing out of our own inner being and all of the 7 vices, pride, sloth, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, envy, balancing them out so they do not become, well, consumes us, that we do not allow them to take a root and hold in our being. And of course, it is not as easy as it sounds, because we first need to know what they are, how they operate, what are their effects, who are these beings, what are they doing, how are they affecting us, and so on. It's about curiosity despite darkness, for we need to face up to what our adversary is doing. You know, our adversaries, Lucifer, Ahriman, and Sorath, they all have their power in the shadows when they are not known, when they are ignored, when they believe they don't exist, is when they have the most power over us. But once you face up to them, know who is Lucifer as a fallen angel, as a backward spirit. Who is Ahriman as fallen archangel? Who is Ahriman as a fallen archai or a backward azuric being? And who is Sorath, who is a backward spirit of form? We are starting to get very high up in the hierarchy here for Sorath, a backward spirit of form. He is the force that wishes to congeal and to sclerotify and press in on itself this whole reality, in a sense. And Ahriman and Lucifer, of course, stand for their own part of all of this, but in the end they kind of are quarreling with each other. They are not exactly friends. The Christ sees these beings as, well, he sees Lucifer with compassion, with love. For Lucifer does not know what to do with it. He doesn't know what to do with love. Ahriman, he lives in our delusional thinking, in our thinking of error of thinking, error of perceiving the world. As I said, Ahriman wishes to drag everything astral, everything of our interest, everything of our focus down into the material. So that is where he is. And Lucifer is the fantastical, the abstract, the cloudy haziness. You can, if you look up to the skies and up to the spiritual world, and you see the spiritual world as one big mist. That is an abstraction, because you cannot really explain it in a sense. We try to explain this mist and all its bits and pieces and beings, to differentiate and come to an understanding. Who is Michael? Who is Gabriel? Who is Raphael? Uriel? Who is Samael? Who is Urifiel? Who is all of the archangels of the planets, for example? And we need to go inward, for they feel different, all of them. Raphael feels different from Gabriel and Michael, for they operate in different spheres in a sense, but they are still a choir, they are still singing together. So despite them being in different spheres and operating a little differently, they are still in the hierarchy, operating with each other, intertwining, intermingling, but at the same time they are their own being. To study and practice spiritual science is truly a grace and a gift. And to having been allowed to do this work, to communicate it every day, having a feeling of purpose and sense of life, it brings health, because you feel you belong, you feel you have a purpose here, you feel you have come here for a reason. and that we do not just randomly appear here and are randomly dying here. Everything hangs together in a certain harmony. So, to trust the wise guidance of the world, despite all of this pain everywhere, all of this suffering everywhere, if we do not introduce love into this and keep on piling up suffering on suffering on suffering on suffering on suffering, we fight suffering with love, compassion. That is well, when you truly think about it, it's the only way. It truly is. There is no other sensation that has that healing force, that has that oomph, that has that enhancing of life. For the Christ is healing, redemption, upliftment. But it also requires us to sacrifice of our time, our effort, our life to God, and to develop ourselves instead of distracting ourselves constantly. It is allowed to enjoy life, enhance life, feeling the beauty of life, being grateful for life in all its facets. But to distract ourselves away from ourselves, now that is something the higher worlds are not overly fond of. It is because they wishes us to know thyself. And know thyself requires you to be aware and awake with yourself. Observe yourself for a week or two. See who you are. As an example, sensitivity helps you do this. And when you balance this sensitivity and do not squash it because you are afraid of it, but sit with it, it strengthens and becomes an organ for perception. And this organ of perception is a super sensible one. You feel I don't like using the word vibrations, because vibrations is, well, first and foremost, it is more in alignment with sound and mechanical physical material structures. It is more a force. It's a living, just like if you take your hand just over, you feel the heat. That is not vibration. That the heat is the hierarchy. For the hierarchy lives in both heat, air, water, and earth. As we say, the physical is but the being of the supersensible congealed down into physical form, but they are still supersensible otherwise. How can the wind blow in certain directions? How can the weather and the waters act tumultuously, and volcanic eruptions erupt and so on? We can say billiard balls hitting each other and there are countless chain reactions, but we forget there is something that needs to trigger that chain reaction. That trigger is the hierarchy and karma, as an example. We have a tendency to try to remove the highest of the high from the picture, the Godhead. Now, why? Why do we wish to remove life, creation, artistry, and the beautiful from the world? Why do you wish to draw it out? Why do we wish to mechanicalize everything? It is because it is the easiest way to do it. The passive observation of outer material nature and observing it over time and then defining what it is will bring no answers. It just points out what happens out in the physical. But we need a little higher supersensible vision that has a certain guidance to it. I think you know what I mean here. It is all about being able to allowing oneself a little inspiration from the higher worlds. For they will guide us and they will help us. And yeah, I think that was everything for today. I know I was a little more quote-unquote abstract today, but that's more because I want you to have the feeling of these things in contradistinction to have it as concepts. Of course, we need to study the concepts first, for that is when we can find reality behind the concepts. So when you have the concept, you can go out into reality and then find the correlating effect and being in the physical, in a sense, or in the spiritual. It depends where we are focusing our gaze. So, thank you so much, you beautiful, beautiful human being. Thank you for your support, and I pray for your benevolent endeavors, and I pray that you are successful in your healing, in your compassion and love, and in your keeping yourself alive every day. For it is a job, it is an active duty for ourselves, kind of, to fill ourselves with life, with love, and such, and overcoming the darkness within us, for we do have that too. Oh, we do have that too. It's about not being afraid of looking at it. So, thank you so much, you beautiful, beautiful human being, you. I know you will always, always, in the end, be successful. For if we trust the higher worlds a little, we will not be disappointed. Even if certain small disappointments might come here and there, you will, in the grand scheme of things, not be disappointed. It is a sacrifice worth doing. It is an ode and a hymn to the Most High and to the Christ, our Redeemer. And that is what I will leave you with. Thank you so much. Love you. See you. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe in 2 days. I'm not quite sure. Never lose sensitivity. It is a strength. Losing it is the opposite. Because you let go of something you were afraid of. Love you. Goodbye.